Welcome back to the Arctic Reptile Ranch. We're going to be meeting some tortoises today, specifically Indian Star Tortoises. I've been keeping Indian Star Tortoises now for about 5 years. My oldest one that you'll meet, she's about twice that age. Before we meet the tortoises, I want to take a moment to show you guys some books before you buy a tortoise, things that you might want to look into or read or know about tortoises. TFH currently sells this book. It's a little bit thicker than most of the books that they sell, and this gives a general overview of how to keep tortoises. And there's, just like in most books, multi-species accounts. They'll explain a little bit about star tortoises, talk about them. They'll go over, this book goes over nutrition, heating, lighting, all the important things for general tortoise care. Another good book to get, which is in pretty much any bookstore, not just specialty shops or pet stores, is Turtles and Tortoises for Dummies. This talks about all of our shelled creatures, and it even has a little bit more than I expected on star tortoises. It has about almost a full page on the Indian Star Tortoises, which encompasses Indian Star Tortoises and Sri Lankan, but it also separates and has a little bit about the Burmese Star Tortoises. So I thought that was kind of interesting that this book, as general as it is, was good enough to separate the two as they should be. And if you decide, I want a tortoise and I really want a star tortoise out of all the tortoises, this is the book for you. It is titled Star Tortoises. How about that? It's by Jerry Fife. He owns a place down in Arizona, and he produces many different species of tortoises, and he's written numerous articles that I've read in Reptiles magazine. I see him from time to time with other online articles, and there's quite a few books that he has written. I have a book on sulcatas that he's written. I think my leopard tortoise book was written by him also. So this is a very good book, and it talks very specifically about star tortoises. So if that's the one you want, then this is the book you need to buy. So Indian Star Tortoises, they don't get overly large. A big female, she's about 8 inches, about yay big around. Males come in a little bit smaller than that. In the Star Tortoise family, the females are the larger tortoise. When it comes to food and nutrition, they have basically the same diet as most tortoises. They are a grassland tortoise. They will eat lots of grasses, lots of drier plants, but they'll eat pretty much the same mixes as everybody else. One thing that they shouldn't get very often is fruits. They're not designed internally. Their kidneys don't process the sugar the same way that, say, a redfoot or a yellow-footed tortoise would do. A lot of the forest species, because they encounter fruits more often, they've evolved to be able to handle the amounts of sugars that fruit gives them. As their name would suggest, Indian Star Tortoises come from India. A lot of people call it the subcontinent of India. It's a country, it's attached to Asia, it's right over there. And if you're wondering where they come from, if you were to go out and pick up this book, you would see a really nice range map that shows where the Indian Star Tortoise comes from. These red areas here are where the northern Indian Star Tortoise comes from, or the northern populations. And the red down here in India is where the smaller version of Indian Star Tortoises come from. And then this is the island of Sri Lanka, so you can see they encompass a pretty decent amount of the space over there. So now that you know a little bit about Indian Star Tortoises, let me bring out some of my star tortoises and introduce you to them. Here in front of me, I have 3 star tortoises. This is a male star tortoise. His name is Rigel. This is an adult female star tortoise. Her name is Andromeda. And this is a recent acquisition. It's a baby star tortoise that was born back in February, and her name is Nova. Having a look at this, you can see how their patterns change over time and kind of areas dull out. On the front of Nova here, this little tiny center part looks like a 5-pointed star. If you look at Rigel right here, you can see he also had a star. And as he grew, and the rings got added around the outside of his scoots, yellow began to grow in. And at a certain point, yellow began to grow in where there were no other patterns quite yet. And if you look at her, she's had many yellow stripes grow in from where patterns didn't exist initially on her central scoot, on the center part of the scoot. She grows at a decent rate. When I got her, she was a little bit smaller than him. So in 5 years, she hasn't. I'd say she's grown about a third of her size. You can see slight differences in the colorations around the edges of the scoots here. You might be able to see those, and they're a little bit lighter because when the new growth comes in, the colors and patterns are lighter, and then over time, when they're exposed to UVB either from outside or my artificial lights, it slowly darkens the colors on most tortoises. These two are a pair. They do currently live together. He is a young male, so he's pretty inexperienced with mating. However, we have seen him go at her a few times. I'm not 100% sure if they've ever locked up together and actually transferred fluids like are needed to produce eggs, but I'm remaining hopeful. I have my incubator. I tested it out this year to make sure it's stable and everything works, and after about 2 weeks of testing, I am sure that once I have eggs, I can plug it in, and by that evening, I'll be off to the races incubating eggs. The way to tell the difference between a male and a female star tortoise is similar to most other tortoises. Their bellies and their tails. I'll lift him up, and you can see that right here, the belly kind of rolls under. Get some of this dirt off of him. And his tail starts right here and goes all the way over and gets tucked in back beyond where his leg starts. On Andromeda, you're going to see a giant difference back here. First off, her belly is flat as can be. Next, her tail, just this little stubby thing back here. Excuse me. There's just enough area for her opening, which serves three purposes. It's where they urinate and defecate from. Both come out of the same hole. And during mating season, females will, after mating, that's where their eggs come out of. And males, that's where their organs come out of and go into. You heard me introduce them by their names: Rigel, Andromeda, and Nova. Anybody that's had an astronomy course or wondered what some of the stars in the sky were might recognize some of those names. Rigel is one of the brighter stars in the Orion constellation. Andromeda is a constellation. And Nova is named after the term nova or supernova. So when it comes to the star tortoises, I like to give them names that relate to astronomy because they're called star tortoises, and it just kind of makes sense. So now that you know who they are, where they're from, how big they get, and what they eat, we're going to go ahead and take a look at where they live. My adult Indian star tortoises live in an open-air, 50-gallon, Rubbermaid agricultural stock tank. You can see how I put these types of habitats together by watching the oldest videos on my YouTube channel. At this end of the habitat where we see Andromeda, I keep them warm with a red infrared basking light that gives them a warm spot of around 105 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. In the center of their little corral, I provide them with fresh water all the time in a bowl that's big enough for them to walk in and out of should they choose to. On the opposite end of their enclosure, they have their hide box. Their hide box is nothing fancy. It's just a simple Rubbermaid container that I have cut a little door hole in the side of so that they can both easily get in and out as they please. And as you can see right now, it pleases Rigel to be inside of his hide box. He's down there scratching, trying to get closer to the heat source that I provide for them. The heat source below their hide box is a Rubbermaid mat. You can see the wire back there that leads under there. It keeps the temperature in their hide box in the low to mid 80s. Now, let's move up to where Nova lives. Nova lives in an Exoterra cage that is 36 inches wide, 18 inches deep, and 12 inches tall. She is separated from the adults for two reasons. She is much smaller and could get accidentally hurt by the larger tortoises. I also like to keep my hatchling and young tortoises in closed air habitats. I'm able to closely monitor and, more importantly, control the environment much more precisely than with the adult enclosures. This ensures the delicate young tortoises are given the best head start possible and helps their shells grow smoothly with minimal to no pyramiding. I've cheated a little bit and placed established sod in her habitat instead of trying to grow the grass myself. She has a hide box that also serves as a humidity chamber. This simulates the microclimates most tortoise species would encounter as babies in the wild as they burrow into the root systems or under fallen vegetation and rocks. The hide box is on the cooler side of the enclosure, which is usually in the mid-80s when I don't have the doors wide open. The hot side, heated by these radiant heat panels, is typically around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, when I don't have the doors wide open. And so, on behalf of all the residents of the Arctic Reptile Ranch, those with shells, and my old boy Zeus over there who's just a big snake, I'd like to thank you for coming back and meeting more of my herd. Don't forget, if you want a star tortoise and you want to know more about star tortoises, there's a book on just star tortoises you can purchase. You can find it in a pet store, a good pet store, or possibly Amazon. And if you're just looking to learn about general tortoise care, these two books are great additions also. And if you're not quite the book type, there is a great website that I frequent called Tortoise Forum, no spaces, tortoiseforum.org. They have specific forums on nearly every species of commonly and not so commonly kept tortoise. So if you're up for it, have a look there, learn what you can, and hopefully you have as much success as I have. See you later.